All right, everybody, welcome back for another deep dive. You know how much we love to just get right into the nitty-gritty, and today's no exception. We're talking all about tech support scams. And to do that, we are going right to the source, the FBI's website. We're talking about the big guns here. You might think you know all there is to know about, those pesky pop-ups and those oh-so-obvious phone calls. But trust me, these scams, they've gotten seriously clever.
Yeah, they really have.
So today, we're going to pull back the curtain and expose the tricks that scammers are using.
Yep.
And we're going to arm you with the knowledge to spot them.
That's right. What's really fascinating about these scams is that they don't just target people who aren't tech savvy. They actually exploit something much deeper, our trust, in institutions, and our fear of those tech problems spiraling out of control.
Yeah. So it's not just about, being good with computers. It's about being aware of how these scammers, they take advantage of human nature. And the FBI website, it even mentions scams involving things like GPS systems, printers, cryptocurrency exchanges, things that people might not even realize could be vulnerable.
Exactly. They're really casting a wide net here, targeting all sorts of services and platforms that people rely on every single day. And that's how they make their schemes seem more legitimate.
So it's not just about knowing your tech. It's about recognizing the many ways these scams can appear. So let's get into the tactics. What are some of the red flags, the things that should make our listeners think, hold on a second, something's fishy here?
Well, a classic tactic is that unsolicited phone call. The one where somebody calls you up and claims there's like a critical problem with your computer or your account. And usually there's this added sense of urgency, like, oh my gosh, your account has been compromised.
Yeah. Oh yeah, those always make my heart skip a beat. Even when you know it's probably a scam. There's that little voice in the back of your head that says, but what if it's real?
Exactly. They feed on that fear, hoping you'll just react without thinking. And then there are those oh-so-annoying pop-up windows warning about, viruses or system errors and urging you to call a support number, which, of course, leads straight to the scammers.
Ugh. It's like they're trying to recreate that feeling. When your computer crashes and you have no idea what to do, you just feel totally helpless. And, speaking of things that make you feel helpless, the FBI actually warns about scammers posing as representatives from financial institutions, utility companies, even cryptocurrency exchanges. Places where people already have a high level of trust and a lot at stake.
Absolutely. They take advantage of that existing trust, and then they create this heightened sense of urgency, and that pushes people to make decisions without thinking things through.
It's like they're hijacking our natural instinct to trust authority figures.
Yeah.
We're conditioned to believe that these institutions are there to help us. So when someone claiming to be from one of them tells us there's a problem, we tend to just take their word for it.
Yeah, that's right. And that's why these scams are so effective. They prey on our vulnerabilities.
Both technological and psychological.
But the good news is, awareness is our best defense. The more we understand their tactics, the better we can spot those red flags and avoid falling into their traps.
Okay, so we've talked about how these scammers get our attention and how they exploit our trust. But what's the end game here? What are they really after?
Well, the real danger zone is when they try to gain remote access to your computer.
Ah, yes, the infamous remote access request. It's almost a cliche at this point. But I bet a lot of people still fall for it.
More than you'd think. They'll say they need to, fix a problem or install some software. But once they have access, it's game over. They can install malware keyloggers, things that record your every keystroke, and they can steal your passwords, financial information, personal data, basically anything valuable on your device.
So even if you haven't, given them your bank details directly, they can just kind of snoop around and find it themselves. That's terrifying.
Yeah.
It's like giving a stranger the keys to your house.
Yeah.
And saying, help yourself to whatever you want.
Exactly. And just like you wouldn't let a random person into your home, you should never give remote access to someone who calls you out of the blue. Legitimate tech support companies don't operate that way.
Right. So what can we do to protect ourselves from these digital bandits? The FBI website must have some tips.
They do. And their advice basically boils down to 3 key principles. Slow down, be skeptical, and stay updated.
Okay, let's break those down. Yeah. Slow down.
Yeah.
I guess that means not making any rash decisions when someone's pressuring you about a tech issue.
Exactly. Don't let anyone rush you into giving them information or access to your devices. Take your time, think things through. And if something feels off, trust your gut.
And be skeptical. That one seems pretty self-explanatory. Question everything.
Right. If someone contacts you out of the blue claiming to be tech support, be suspicious. Verify their identity independently. Don't click on links in unsolicited emails or pop-ups. And never, ever provide personal or financial information unless you are absolutely certain you're dealing with a legitimate company.
Got it. And lastly, stay updated.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing this means keeping your software up to date,
Mm-hmm.
especially your antivirus.
You got it. Software updates often include security patches that can help protect you from known vulnerabilities that scammers exploit.
So those annoying update reminders, they're actually doing us a favor in the long run.
Absolutely. Think of it as a digital immune system. The more up to date it is, the better it can fight off those nasty digital bugs.
That's a great analogy. Okay, so we're all being super careful and taking notes, but let's face it, mistakes happen. What if, despite our best efforts, we find ourselves in that situation where we've been scammed? What should we do to minimize the damage?
Well, first of all, don't panic. The FBI has a clear action plan for anyone who's been targeted, and the sooner you act, the better.
All right, so let's walk our listeners through those steps. What's the first and most important thing to do?
The first thing is to report the incident to the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center, or IC3 as it's known. You can do that online at ic3.gov. Reporting helps law enforcement track these criminals and potentially prevent them from targeting others.
Right, so even if we feel embarrassed or foolish, reporting it is crucial for the greater good. It's like reporting a crime in the physical world. It helps the authorities catch the bad guys and protect others.
Exactly. And don't underestimate the power of collective action. The more people who report these scams, the better equipped law enforcement will be to combat them.
Okay, what's next on the list?
Run a full virus scan using updated antivirus software to check for any malware the scammers might have installed. You might even want to consider getting professional help to clean your computer if you're concerned about lingering threats.
So it's like calling in the hazmat team after a spill. You want to make sure everything is thoroughly cleaned up and safe to use again. All right, so we've reported the crime. We've scanned our computer for malware. What else should we do?
Next, contact your financial institutions, like your bank's credit card companies, anyone who might be affected. Freeze any suspicious transactions and take steps to protect your accounts.
So basically, assume the worst and act fast to lock down your finances. I can imagine that's a stressful conversation to have, but better safe than sorry, right?
Absolutely. It's better to err on the side of caution and be proactive in protecting your financial well-being.
Okay, what about passwords? Should we be changing those too?
Definitely. Change all your passwords, especially for accounts the scammers might have had access to. Use strong, unique passwords for each account. And consider using a password manager to help you keep track of them all.
That's a good reminder for all of us, even if we haven't been scammed. Using strong, unique passwords is one of the simplest, yet most effective ways to protect our digital lives.
And here's another important point. Be prepared to be targeted again. Scammers often share victim information, so you might see an increase in suspicious calls or emails.
So even after going through this whole ordeal, we need to stay extra vigilant. It feels like a never-ending battle.
It can feel that way. But remember, knowledge is power. The more you know about these scams and their tactics, the better equipped you'll be to protect yourself.
Before we wrap up this section, I want to say to anyone out there who's been a victim of a tech support scam, you're not alone. Don't let shame or embarrassment prevent you from seeking help. Report the crime, take steps to protect yourself, and know that you can overcome this.
That's such an important message. Remember, these scammers are professional manipulators. They're experts at exploiting vulnerabilities and preying on people's fears. Falling victim to a scam doesn't mean you're gullible or foolish. It means you're human, and there's no shame in that.
It's definitely reassuring to know that there are things we can do to minimize the damage if, the worst does happen. But to be honest, this whole conversation about scams has got me feeling a little paranoid. Like, what's the one key takeaway that you want our listeners to remember to really stay safe out there?
Well, you said it yourself earlier. Knowledge is power. The more informed we are, the less likely we are to become victims. And it goes beyond just protecting ourselves.
Oh, you mean there's more we can do?
Mm.
Besides just locking down our own devices? I'm all ears.
Think about it. How many people do you know who might be vulnerable to these tactics? Maybe older relatives who aren't as comfortable with technology, or friends who might panic at the first sign of a computer problem.
Oh yeah, you're so right. My grandma, she still calls me every time she gets a pop-up ad. She's convinced her computer's about to explode.
Exactly. Sharing this information with them, having a conversation about the dangers of tech support scams, that's where the real power lies. We can create a network of informed individuals who can look out for each other.
So it's like a digital neighborhood watch. We're all in this together, helping each other stay safe online. I love that.
And don't forget, the FBI website has a ton of resources. They've got those great Inside the FBI podcasts that go even deeper into specific scams, like the one on the Phantom Hacker scheme.
Oh, yeah, I've heard about those. They're
Right.
supposed to be really insightful.
They are. They do a fantastic job of breaking down how these scams work, the psychology behind them, and, of course, how to protect yourself. I highly recommend checking them out.
I'll definitely add them to my list.
Oh.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today. We've explored the world of tech support scams, their sneaky tactics, and the real damage they can cause. But most importantly, we've learned how to protect ourselves and our loved ones.
And remember, these scams are constantly evolving, so stay curious, stay informed, never be afraid to ask questions.
Great advice. A huge thank you to our expert for sharing their expertise today. And to all our listeners out there, stay vigilant, stay informed, and stay safe out there in the digital world. And don't forget to share this knowledge with your friends and family. Together, we can make the internet a safer place for everyone.